In this video, I'm going to walk you through what 99% of e-commerce brand founders discover too late, which causes them a lot of stress, anxiety, and panic when operating their business, and how we here at Dunk help founders strategically plan out their e-commerce business year over year to make sure that we are trying as best as we possibly can to mitigate what we call the middle here at Dunk. Now, what is the middle? The middle is a time period within your business that occurs every single year that is based on what we call the seasonality of e-commerce. Now, seasonality of e-commerce is something that brand founders discover a little bit too late, and they always discover this typically after having their first Black Friday and Cyber Monday, when they think that they are absolutely killing it, which they are. And then what happens is it leads into Q1. Now, what seasonality is e-commerce typically relies on discretionary spending, which means that the products that 90 to 95 to 99% of e-commerce brand founders sell are not needs that are required to operate and live, like food, like electricity, like housing. So what this means is that spend that we have, that we buy products from, is typically discretionary spending, and what that means is it is very seasonal. And can be influenced by a lot of different factors. And what we have, which is the middle, which is this diagram here, explains what brands typically face if we had to average out what the average e-commerce brand's revenue would look like. This is pretty accurate on what it would look like. And we have three main components here. So we have these Q1 sales, which happen in March. We have end of financial year, and we have Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales going into December. And this is what an average e-commerce brand's Shopify revenue trend would look like. Now, I'm not saying every e-commerce brand does 500 grand at a baseline minimum, but you get the principle here. So what happens is a lot of brands focus on these three periods of the year, which is what they should do. It's where they make most of their profits. It's when they can liquidate a lot of their stock and so on. But what happens is, because of the seasonality of e-commerce, what a lot of brands don't discover until it's too late is what we call the middle. Now, the middle is these periods here where you cannot rely on external factors to help influence the buying behaviors of your customers. And so what a lot of brands do is they go from these really high periods of revenue to these middle periods where they haven't strategically planned in their finances, but also in their marketing calendar. And this causes them to panic and make bad decisions for their business because they have not planned out their year from obviously a P&L perspective and then a marketing calendar perspective. Now, there's a few little caveats to this. One, it's going to take you a few years to understand the seasonality of your business. And what I mean by this is every business is going to have different aspects of their business that is naturally seasonal. So for example, a swimwear brand, if we're going off this same graph, from October, let's say it's October here, and this is January, so October to January, and then we go to June, and then we go back to January. So if you're a swimwear brand, let's say we're in swim and we're in Australia, our revenue trend is probably going to look something like this. From October, it's really going to start to spike. In January, it's going to continue to spike. And then after we hit Feb through to March, it's going to really plateau. And then once we hit June, the demand is essentially dead here in Australia. Now, what these brands will do, because they know this and they understand that it's very difficult to sell bikinis in the middle of winter, is they'll either switch their marketing to then go over to essentially chasing the endless summer, which is from March in the United States and Europe. It's obviously their summer, and it will pick back up and then it will die back off. So either one, they'll make that switch and change all their marketing to these other countries where they can chase that summer, or they will pull back a lot of their operations to sit at a minimum and coast through the winter periods to then pick back up depending on the size of the business and so on. Now, because e-commerce swimwear brands have to face this every single year, they're typically a lot better at understanding the seasonality trends of their business. Now, 99% of other e-commerce brand founders don't understand this, and it takes them a little while. So to make sure I'm staying on track here, seasonality plays a big part in your sales. This leads to what we call the middle period of your business, where you're not going to be able to rely on external factors. This means that you are not adjusting your expenses of your business or how much stock you're going to be able to sell, which then leads to a decrease in sales, which then leads to panic, which then leads to unprofitability and so on. So what we want to do to change this is every single year we want to map out any trends that we see within our business, because it's not going to be exactly like this. Once we map out them trends, we're going to then want to build a financial plan that represents natural trends within our business, and what periods are going to be of heightened buying behavior and what periods are going to be a little bit slower. And then what we want to do, so once we discover the trends, then what we want to do is develop a financial plan. F-I-N-I, let's scrap this. We'll just do then what we want to do is build a financial plan. And then 3, we want to use that financial plan based on our trends to then build a marketing calendar. This way, us as e-commerce marketers and operators can understand better what our year is going to look like, when we need to raise our marketing budgets, raise our expenses for the business, and when we need to pull those expenses back to align with the trends that our business historically sees, to ensure that we're not over leveraged on certain periods of the year based on our poor planning. And what that will do is help save you a lot of stress, anxiety, and then also save you from having to make really tough decisions because you hadn't forecasted out the year. So hope this all makes sense. If you have any questions, as always, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you want us to work with you on building out one of these financial and marketing plans for 2025, there should be a link in the description below where you can book in a 60-day growth and game plan.